Oh, so I think we're on now. Are we on? Because it says end stream, and I don't know. What's good, people? This is Big Said back again. I am playing with myself. I mean, with my computer. Let me stop. Um, Once again, okay, yeah, we're on. This is a Big Said industry cosign back at my latest edition of My Friends Are Better Than Yours, and I have a friend that I've known for um
Too damn long.
she looks about 25, but I've known her for about 26 years. So
Oh, thank you.
I birthed her. Now let me stop.
Oh my God.
Okay, let me start it off correctly and do the bio intro so that way we can start. Nubi's ties to the music industry goes back as far as the 90s, where she worked at Capitol Records and began establishing relationships with artists like Channel Live, Portrait, Luscious Jackson, and others. I edited, so excuse me for editing it with your
You're fine.
no. She began to reach out to friends who also had careers in the industry and started making herself available to shadow them in an effort to plant her feet firmly in the business. Nubi put in the work, including the grunt work, to get the experience she needed to understand the music business. An introduction to Ralph McDaniels of Video Music Box by Cheryl Questell, casting director and producer for Classic Concept Productions, also under Ralph, afforded Nubi many opportunities to connect with industry veterans and artists. That's where I come in. Fast forward, fast forward to 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, Nubi took a hard look at how her life had evolved and started checking off things on her bucket list. Interviewing artists was up next. Nubi's love for music has never waned, so she began to create. So, so she began to start creating names for what would be her platform, and Nubi, the Ear Hustler, and We Are Ear Hustling Baby fit perfectly. To test the waters for her platform, she reached out to Frankie Salvation of Weekly Rap Gods and suggested that he needed a female co-host for his show Tap the Mic on Instagram. Nubi was offered the role of co-host and gave her the opportunity to shine and be able to work with some of the greatest hip-hop artists of our time. The goal is to share great content about music and the creators behind them to the masses. Nubi's warm and easygoing personality brings brings you into her space where the listener becomes a part of an intimate conversation. She asks the questions that make the artist dig a little deeper and provides a platform to share things that they ordinarily wouldn't discuss. Nubi is building up for her legacy of connecting people through sought after music content and exclusive interviews. Now I take off my glasses because I can't see without them, and now I can, see my eyes because I know people want to see my eyes. But anyway,
Oh God. We can't miss your eyeballs, man. They're like peppermint balls. We
watch it
can't
out.
miss them.
So to my audience, I'd love to introduce. So I'm pretty sure a few of you know who this is. Newbie, the hustler, ear hustling. Welcome to the industry cosigns. My friends are better than yours. How are you
Thank you.
today?
Thank you for having me, said. That was a whole lot. So it's Newbie the Ear Hustler. The show is We Ear Hustling, baby. And yeah, I'm excited to be on your show. I feel special.
You should.
Ah,
But
shut it up.
but let me get this out the way because I realized this when we were making arrangements that you are actually the first female guest of My Friends Are Better Than Yours. Not of the podcast, but of this particular series. My Friends Are Better Than Yours. So congratulations. You you
Thank
did,
you.
you've broken that cherry. You have you can brag. No one can say that they've done what you've done, which is crack the nut of, well, not crack the nut, but you know.
Listen, you all out of pocket, out of line, all of it. What is wrong with you?
I'm just saying. So let's start off with now the only thing that I don't like about these things is that I know so much but not know enough, or don't know how to direct it. So we're just gonna have a conversation, and wherever it goes, it goes. But
Let's do it.
we're both under the same tree, and it's funny that it seems as if every interview I have, Ralph is always mentioned, and I don't know if I like that because I don't like Ralph. But we come from under the same tree, the same umbrella, Video Music Box Classic Concepts, And
Mhm.
and back then, for little background for some people that don't know, I grew up 2 blocks away from one of my good friends, Tuffy Questell, and his sister Cheryl Questell actually worked with Ralph McDaniels with Video Music Box. Now, when we were
Yep.
coming up, Video Music Box, of course, was the thing, and Cheryl worked as a producer with Ralph, and that's how I got introduced to Video Music Box. Well, actually, Ralph's specifically with Classic Concept because of Cheryl, and I always give Cheryl props because even when speaking about, and I don't speak about this too often because people usually bring it up anyway, but she's the reason why I was in the MC Light video. She had asked me if I was interested in being in a video, and back then video movies, like nobody was in videos, so I
That's
I,
right.
I came in at a time where like I was the Michael Jackson of videos. So I appreciated that, and I always got to give props to like I said, shouts to Tuffy, props to Cheryl, and definitely big ups to Ralph McDaniels. And the reason why I brought all that up because, like I said, we both come from the same umbrella.
Mhm.
Um, I was about to ask you how did you meet Ralph, but obviously, if I was reading the words I spoke earlier, it was because of Cheryl. But
Indeed.
um, let me go back further. Then, like, what sparked your interest to become involved in the music industry?
So first off, I want to shout out Cheryl J. Questell. That's my sister.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Um,
say the J. Sorry.
yes, and so yeah, so that's my girl. That's my sis. I love her. Um, but yeah, I wanted to sing. That's how I started, and I went through the phases of singing it throughout the house. My stepfather saying, "Stop all that damn hollering," all those good things, right? Until I got it right, and I just stepped out on faith. I just started, doing the footwork, and I met Cheryl through Joski Love, actually. At an event where it was a video music box event, and we just clicked. We clicked from that point on, and I wish I had more specific memory about that, but it was, you know, I like I said, it was just an automatic click, and we stayed tight. We've been tight ever since. And she's the one that got me to do some work with Ralph, and hang out on the sets and do different things. And um, the experience of that was just like, yeah, I want to do this. And then eventually, I wound up working at Capitol Records.
Okay. What did you do at Capitol Records?
Nothing
I think
important.
I'm
So I was an executive assistant in the indie rock section of Capitol. And funny story was, I want to say it was my first week, maybe, on my way to the job. And I'm on the train, the number one train, and I see Hakeem and Tuffy, not knowing who they are. And, we just happen to be in the same car. And the next thing I know, I walk up into the office and they're up there. And so that's how I met Hakeem and Tuffy of Channel Live. And so I worked in the indie rock section. Shout out to Belviana Todman, who was the one that got me the interview at Capitol Records. She was at that time working in the Blue Note section of Capitol. And so, yeah, I just started making connections. I mean, worldwide, I reached out to well, I got calls from people wanting vinyl and things like that. And so I made connections out in Toronto initially. And the rest is history. I just got to meet some amazing people. Um, CC Winans, the group Portrait, Luscious Jackson, Spearhead. I was there when Tracy Waples was at Capitol.
Tracy Rayfield. Hi, Tracy.
Hey, Tracy.
Well, I mean, and the funny thing is that because, of course, like the music industry of today is definitely not, what it was when we were involved. Because of course, I started at Motown with Deidre Tate.
Damn,
Um,
you old.
watch your
I'm
mouth.
sorry.
Um, so that means you're calling Deidre old because I mentioned Deidre and you said, "Damn,
No,
I'm
I didn't
old."
say no. Don't be putting
I'm,
no words in
I,
my mouth. I said you
that's,
old. Stop it. You could be older than
that's
she
what I heard.
is.
You know. I'm not as old as Miss Tate, but shout out to DJ Tate.
You better say seasoned. You better say seasoned. You better fix it.
I'm not as seasoned as DJ Tate,
Thank
you
you.
know, and or Ralph or Lionel C. Martin, or I could go on, or Cheryl or anybody,
But you more seasoned than me.
you know. I mean, I just happened to come into the world before you, so that's how it works,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Right.
But what when you first got in the industry, did you think that? Well, for me, it's like more than 30 years later, but like 20 plus years later, did you like where did you think you would be? Like, how did you think? I mean, because we all have different like viewpoints and different visions when we actually like. Well, let me. Okay, Tuffy and I. Well, Tuffy's a great singer, and we actually had a group, back then. So I thought we would be on tour, by the time like 30 years later, be celebrated and like having, you know, footprints in a walk of fame and things of that nature.
Like,
And the only thing I can do is get my footprints in some wet grass if I walk in Central Park. But um how did you think that you'd end, like where did you think you were going, or where did you want to go when you first got into it? And how do you feel like still being involved, and like what's your viewpoint now?
well, when I first got into the record industry, or the music industry, I wanted to sing. And so that was my foot in the door, to meet artists that I could work with. And I actually did get a chance to sing and do some vocals for some hip hop artists. But I did realize that, we come from an era where artists would come up to record labels and punch people in the face.
Of course.
And,
Hey, Chris Williams.
I,
Sorry.
yeah, listen, and for me, that was a breaking point for me because I didn't have the temperament, for it. Um, I knew that either I would wind up getting into something physical, or
You?
be disrespected, or one of those one of those
You?
things. As you know, the industry it was and is still very treacherous. So, um the idea was to sing and to become a famous singer, and that did not happen. And I actually left the music industry for many, 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 many years. I had no desire to go back. I I'd been in so many places. I'd been in the same studio with Kenny Green from Intro, the same night that Little Mo was there, the same night that Joe was there, and the same night that Diddy was there, and sang for Puffy face to face. And that was probably one of the most, disrespectful events that I've had in my life, in that I sang for him and he looked at me and walked away. And my feelings were hurt. I was like, wow. But I didn't let it deter me. Um, again, being around so many people that were in the industry, I was still able to get some music out there and meet some amazing people. Everybody from Heavy D to Red Hot Lovatone to CL Smooth to Timbaland. I mean, Erica Badu. Like, I can't say that I did not have the opportunity to cross paths with some amazing folks. And so I was grateful for that. Now, in terms of the industry, I mean, as you know, there's a huge indie movement. The labels are not what they were before. You had labels with these big budgets, and they were able to, put these artists out there, but they were also able to rob them at the same time.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and so, man, like, I love the indie movement and I love what's happening now. um I just wish that some of the artists were more educated on the business side of things, because here's the deal. And there's been a clip floating around it. Eric Sermon was talking about how, you need to work. Like, there are no more labels providing all of this money anymore, so you may have to have a job and do this at the same time. And these younger folks don't seem to have the same coping mechanisms, so it's a bit different.
It definitely is. I think social media definitely plays a big part because our social media was us going out and just like, moving
In real
around.
life.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've often asked several people that appeared on the show, how would we have been if social media was a thing back then? And suffice to say that, half of us would probably be somewhere that we're not supposed to be, but that's where we were anyway. And
Right.
and I think that the work factor isn't what it used to be because you really don't have to work as hard anymore because all you really need is a phone nowadays to make money, which is a good thing. But at the same time, when it comes to talent, when it comes to talent, um, if you're hustling, if your hustling is better than your talent, you're gonna win.
Right.
And but back then your talent was what well, actually the hustling definitely played a big part back then, but it was because of the talent, because if you hustled and showed your talent, then people were impressed. Nowadays people are impressed that you can gain an audience, and ignorance is at an all-time high because, as we all know, I've heard people say, I've heard younger people say that hip hop is the reason why, like the younger generation, dwells on ignorance because of what they heard in hip hop when they were coming up. And I'm like, I can understand it from that point of view only because if that's what you were listening to, that's on you. But at the same time, we had to basically look for what it was that we wanted to find back then. It was
Mm-hmm.
the underground was deep. I mean, nobody really wanted to have a big contract like that. They just wanted to perform. They just wanted to do their things, and that made people from the underground rise up. And with all the independent labels and people and things, people just doing the entrepreneurship, and people don't even know how to say entrepreneurship these days. But everyone, see the content creation or influencer is the new entrepreneurs in the sense where when we were coming up, we wanted to be entrepreneurs because we wanted to make our own money, we wanted to do our own things. But nowadays, like I said, with an influencer, they feel their job is to get on social media and then just do whatever. I mean, one of the biggest influencers, just for Mike Tyson, you know, they showed. I saw a clip on, I think, on Instagram, and somebody said that, how can I tell my kid that this was the guy that beat Mike Tyson? And they showed Jake Paul, and I've never seen any clips of Jake Paul when he was younger, when he first got into it, and he's dancing like a little girl and singing a song and doing all of this, and the other. And I'm like, wow, it's like, he went from that amassed with it, and I give credit to everybody who has done their thing to create their audience, because that's what it's about nowadays, creating your audience. And I think that's the most important thing nowadays, to create your audience. But the only thing that I don't like, and I realize is I'm talking so much when I'm supposed to be talking to you. But anyway, let me just make
No,
my
it's
point.
fine.
Yeah, let me make my point. I think that ignorance is what drives everyone. I mean, look at our future president. Coming up, like, or even 10 years ago, the president was looked up and presented, exuded like professionalism, like this is how you act. So now we have somebody who's not only a crybaby, but is like the biggest kid, and he's created such a atmosphere and environment where people are actually doing ignorant things in the name of supporting him. And I follow politics, and I saw some politician said yesterday that whatever he says, we just have to do it. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, I think things have to get worse before it gets better. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as worried as most people are. I don't see a doomsday effect. I really don't. And I know I just jumped around from different things and now went to politics, but all of it encompasses the ignorance that we're all surrounded by these days, and people are getting paid to be ignorant.
So here's what I'm going to say about social media to draw you in, right? And when you start talking about influencers, it's in their name, right? They're there to influence. And in terms of, so let's say there are makeup influencers, there are fashion influencers, you know, those things were always there,
Yeah.
but they weren't readily accessible in the way that we have them now. Everything is instant gratification now. And
Yeah.
if we don't get what we want right away, don't let Instagram or TikTok be on the fritz, right? People are losing their minds. And I'm not talking about the younger generation. I'm talking about every generation. It's like, yo, what's going on? I can't get, we have been drawn in. I have found that I've had to literally take breaks because I'm getting up and I'm picking up my phone instead of getting up and saying my prayers. And so when you start looking at the generations and the way that we receive information, it is so fast now that we don't know what to do when we don't get things quick enough all the way around. It affects us often online, not just online. And in terms of the music, the algorithm feeds you, right? And so it's feeding you what you're watching. If you don't watch it, it won't come up in your feed. So are we asking for the ignorance? You know what I mean? So like that's the
Well,
part. Like,
maybe that's your timeline because it doesn't come up with mine. But go ahead.
no, it doesn't come up on mine because I'm not looking at that stuff. You know what I mean? So what I'm looking at and what comes through is the type of music that I like. And on occasion, something odd will pop in and I'll just say I'm not interested. Um, I just think that we are in a world where we're being force fed certain things, and we have to excuse me, turn the switch off. If we see something that we don't like, or make sure that we mark that we're not interested, or you know what I mean, all these things. And in terms of hip hop, you said something that was interesting. You know, underground was called underground for a reason, right? Because they did not want to be mainstream. You know what I mean? That was a whole movement in itself. And then when certain acts saw that there was money to be had going mainstream, then they changed their formula. And I'm not mad at that. You know what I mean? I'm not mad at that at all. I just think that you have to use this social media intentionally so that you get what you want out of it. All of the stuff that I listen to, there's some old school hip hop that I listen to that's ratchet as hell. And as an adult, I listen to it and I'm like, yo, like I was listening to Mystical the other day and I was like, was I really singing this? You know what I mean? Like he was saying some real hardcore you pimp shit. And I'm saying to myself, and I was sitting there, take that ass, watch this. Like, really? Be quiet, stop all that crying, heifer. I don't need all that. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on a second. You know what I'm saying? So I just had to say that our parents didn't like our music. Their parents didn't like their music. But I will say that we were less of followers than there are
Yeah.
now. Like, I don't call the people that are following me on my page, I like to call them my tribe, right?
Yeah.
Because they have chosen to listen to me. They have chosen to listen to what I put up in terms of content, right? I don't want to call them fans and I don't want to call them followers. I feel like that's it's like So when we start talking about content and what's being fed out there, there is a level of ignorant shit that comes through, but we can, filter that out if we so choose. Is do we want to?
True. I just what one thing that I know that we never had access to was the
Mhm.
artist. I mean, we had access because we worked in the business, but it's like
Right.
nowadays, Fat Joe can get on Instagram Live, and anybody can he could just pick somebody and just talk to them
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
off the fly. And
Mhm.
when we were coming up, the exclusivity amongst the artists was so crazy because of course, remember I used to do celebrity basketball games, so seeing
Mhm.
people with their eyes wide to see like Jay-Z or to see 50 Cent or whatever, like in their midst. When nowadays all you have to do is go to Twitter and you can actually have a conversation with Cardi B because she's going to respond to something. And I think that that's another thing that it makes artists feel more accessible, but that it also makes the fans are not fans, but the people feel that they can do or say whatever they want because they have like literally access to you,
Mm.
especially if you respond. And
Yeah.
I'm just amazed because like I said, we coming up. I mean, the people I went to school with, like I knew, but it's like even going to parties and seeing people, video music box, going to the video music box parties and seeing how people for a chance to give a shout out, you know,
Yeah.
and for them that was like meeting Michael Jackson. That was like winning a political office. It's like it was everything. Where
But
nowadays
I
it's
don't want
like,
to. I don't want to cut you off, but do you understand why? See, there's a level of community that was had when you went to a video music box party. You knew what to expect. You knew everybody was there for the same damn reason, and everybody wanted to give a shout out. There was that level of community. You knew I was at the events that Ralph threw, you know what I'm saying, with Biggie and all Lil Kim, like we were there for that. And so even in that, it it was made to be a special event,
yeah,
right? And like you said, all the artists now are easily accessible. I've even seen artists and uh, fans of artists demand that they put out another album. We're waiting on another album for you. When are you coming? Like, it's out of listen, you could imagine in our time walking up to Raekwon and saying, yo, when you putting that album out, son? Right,
nope.
you'd have got your head knocked off. There are no limitations. Now, with that being said, there are some artists who will bite back. And Cardi is one of them. You know what I mean? You
She's
get the
two of them.
right. Yeah, right, exactly. She's for everybody. But so I think again, the accessibility is what you're talking about. There's so much access to the artists now that people feel like they can say and do whatever it is they want to do. And you know me for a long time. I've had to check a couple of people and be like, yo, you
You,
on the wrong page. But you know
you,
what I'm saying? Hey, listen, and no one can ever say that they misunderstood what I said, right? You on the wrong page, bruh. Go find somebody else to play with. This is not the page for that. So, and thank God my tribe, and this is why I call them a tribe, will also come to my defense. They have gotten to people before I've gotten to people because they know my page isn't about that. So I think that this is another thing where if you utilize social media properly, you will have people championing for you.
yeah, definitely, definitely,
You
definitely.
know, like even you and I go back and forth, but if somebody says something to me about you, it's on and popping. Like
Yeah,
what? What you said?
and it's funny because I'm gonna use Twitter as an example. Like years ago, um, me and DJ Scratch used to go at it all the time. And of course, DJ Scratch has a much bigger fan base than I do. And I would just say some slick shit, you know, and we're,
They
we're
come for you.
yeah, and we're texting each other, and I'm like, "Yo, I just said this, that, and the other." He's like, "Okay, I'm not gonna say anything. Let me see what they do." And they would attack me with as if like I just killed like a member, like I just killed his dog, and I'm laughing because it's that serious for them. They're defending him, and then Scratch will come out, hey, that's my boy, that's my friend. We're friends in real life. This is that and the other. And for me, you know me, I'm like I'm going to test the waters anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
I do
Hard head.
enjoy that people are that passionate about people that they love because
Mm-hmm.
I mean I guess that's how the Beehive was created and what's Nicki Minaj
The Barb's
the Barb's and
and
the
Taylor Swift. They got them all.
50s. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
oh, what would mine be called?
Oh
Humans.
my gosh. I
I'm like,
gotta think of one for you.
yeah, I'm not going to. But let's talk about why you ear hustling.
So I got started in the middle of the pandemic, basically. Again, a lover of music. I grew up in the music household. I always tell the story. Quiet Riot was my first 45. Come on, feel the noise. I grew up in a diverse household, but during the pandemic, I'm watching and I'm on social media more than I've ever been because we're in a pandemic, right? And there's all the stuff that they got the verses going on. And the first thing I did was start sharing music that I thought was dope.
Yeah,
And it wasn't what everybody else was listening to. You know what I mean? It could be any genre of music. If I thought it was dope, I put it up there. And as time went on, you know, actually almost simultaneously, I did the thing with Weekly Rap Gods. But in terms of my show, people started paying attention to what it was that I was posting. I was giving a little bit of background on the artist. I was playing their music and I was playing what it was that I enjoyed. And I continue that pattern to this day. I am not here to placate the masses. I'm going to play what I want to play that I like first and foremost. In the interim, what has happened is people will send me DMs and say, "Oh, have you heard this artist?" And these are artists that have not been discovered yet. So that was the other thing was me getting to musicians who were really dope that no one else had ever heard of.
yeah,
And the biggest one to date for me was this singer named Elmeen out of the UK. He's a Sudanese singer. And Questlove actually posted him singing a D'Angelo song, and I saw it and I reached out and I secured his first interview before anybody else ever spoke to him. And he's just completely blown up. So I use that as an example. People trust my ear. Um, they may not like everything that I post, but you can't say it's bad singing. You can't say it's bad musicianship. It's more about your preference in
yeah,
music.
yeah. So you were D nice
So
before D nice.
kind of sort of, right? I just don't know how to DJ, you know what I mean? And I think it gave me something to do in terms of what I love with music, um, and just really be authentically me. I like this. Y'all like this? What you think? You know what I mean? The We Ear Hustling Baby came about, that name came about because it's a common thing, and I don't know if it's outside of our community, the Black community, but I can recall back in the day saying, yo, she over there ear hustling. You know what I'm saying? Well, she's minding somebody else's business. So she always got her ear to the ground. And so that's kind of how I came up with We Ear Hustling Baby.
Now I know that you interviewed me, so I appreciate that, and I know that the Instagram live, the Instagram thing was the thing because people were trying to get me to do it. I didn't really have as like I guess because I've been interviewing people for many years, I just didn't care as much. Well, I still don't care, but when I say I don't care, I mean as far as like getting my face out there because I know a lot of people that when they interview people, they're not interviewing people so that way the person that they're talking to is getting publicity or promotion. They're doing it so that way they can big up themselves talking to
Mm,
people. And
mhm.
even when I was doing interviews, like even when I was back at Interactive One, like I would be off camera asking the questions, and people would ask me, "Well, how come you're never on camera?" I'm like, because that's just not. I want the focus to be on the person because if I get in the camera, they're not going to be paying attention, to the people.
Oh, God.
But the reason why I bring that up because I know that when the Instagram Live was a thing, and because like I said, you were Fat Joe before Fat Joe, so like like was it because other people were doing it, or was this because you just wanted to do it and you had? And the good thing about Instagram Live is that all you needed was your phone. as opposed to like
The
having
computer.
equipment and things that yeah and things that nature. So like what was your drive to actually get on Instagram Live to make it happen?
I mean, I just knew that people would want to hear from the artist. And if you, I know you've looked at maybe one of my interviews, but if you look at my interviews, I don't do a whole lot of talking. I ask the question and I let the person talk.
Yeah,
And I think that's where people started really getting engaged, is because they were like, oh, she's not, running and talking over people while they're trying to talk, or, and I've had people sing. I want, just like you said, the spotlight, but I also didn't want to get that, how come you're not on camera thing.
yeah,
Right. And so I knew that I could do it without ever having done it before, because I know how to speak to people. I know how to make people comfortable. I know how to say, hey, this is your show. This is about you. Let's hear what you have to say. And I think that for me, Instagram Live, when I realized that you could do that, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Just like you said, I don't have to have a whole setup. I don't have to have anything crazy. All I need is a tripod. Right now, I don't have, I mean, a desk. It doesn't matter. I can talk to these people, and it's just about them.
yeah,
So for me, whether I was on, I do want to get into radio, because I don't always want to be on camera. You know what I mean? And that has been a battle for me, and I would say the last year or so. It's just like, I just want to hear what they have to say, and I want the people to hear what they have to say. And but then I've gotten messages from people saying, "Oh, we haven't seen you in a while," and it's just like I haven't done interviews since, I don't know, it's been a minute since I've done an interview, because I've been transitioning and doing some things. But it's the most important thing for me in my shows. If I never do an interview again, I'm okay with that, because my
yeah,
page is about sharing music, not in the way anybody else does it. I don't look at any other podcasts unless someone says, please take a look, because I don't want to subconsciously take on what it is that they're doing and how their process is. And the way I introduce things is the way I introduce them. I don't want it to be where I always have to be on camera. When I was on Weekly Rap Guys, literally, I was doing 2 interviews a week for almost 2.5 years straight. One interview on that show, which was strictly hip hop. And
yeah.
then, am I boring you?
Yeah, but continue.
Wait till I see you. So, um, so it became a situation of, I'm doing R&B on my show, hip hop on that show, and then the hip hop, the artist, the people from Weekly Rap Guys started following me on my page, and that's when I started finding out how much hip hop artists and lovers love R&B.
Yeah,
So, but it's hard to tell sometimes, right? And then the more I got to know people, the more, especially artists, they were like, man, I don't listen to hip hop just because I'm a hip hop artist. I listen to other stuff because I need a break from it.
yeah.
So then I still slowly started doing hip hop on my show as well.
So let me ask you a question because as long as I've been doing this, there are times where I can't come up with questions or I can't like, but it's also the energy I get from people. Like, are there times where, as you, even if you have questions in front of you, are there times where you're talking to somebody and like you can't, not necessarily can't, but um, are there any times where you're like, how am I gonna get through this? Like, or like,
There's been,
like,
there's been 2 interviews, and both of them were women. And the first one was out of the UK. And it was just an odd situation. It was really weird. She was, ready to do it. And then all of a sudden, when we get on a live, it's like she's sick. And I'm like, but I just spoke to you 30 minutes ago. We could have rescheduled this. So that was the first one. The second one, I literally stopped following the person, took the interview down afterwards. Like the first 15 minutes of that conversation. So so I did water polo, and then I decided whether or not I was like, yo, this can't be. So the person kept going, and then she was speaking about another artist that she adored, but was giving that person backhanded compliments throughout the interview. And I'm saying to myself, now I gotta edit this crap out, right? I finished the interview, I upload it, I edit it, I tell this person, hey, I'm ready to let this clip fly. Oh, well, can you wait because I need to put up things from my New York show? And I'm sitting here saying to myself, okay. A month goes by, son. A month. And I'm like, you know what? I reached back out, no response. I took all that shit down. All of it. At the end of the day, you never really know what you're gonna get,
Yeah.
right? Because artists are creatives, and they're, very eccentric, and they're in their heads, and they're, some of them have been so amazingly humble. Some of them, like when I interviewed Eric Roberson, I think that might have been my first or second interview ever doing this show. And when he said yes, I thought I was going to do backflips through the house. I was so excited. I was like, yeah, I got Eric Roberson. And he was so pleasant. And he was just so, and it just flowed. A majority of my interviews go that way. A majority of my interviews. And I've had a couple of male um, musicians where there is still a lot of ego involved. And so I have to, kind of assert myself in a different way. But other than that,
Nubi
the
way.
questions, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So, other than that, the questions flow. Um, I did an interview with I Am God out of Chicago, and there was some bloopers. We did it pre-recorded because I stopped using Instagram Live because it just would never record properly. It'd be fuzzy, it'd be delayed, and so I started doing pre-recorded, and I had all my questions lined up, and somehow one question went missing, or some song I was talking about was not in the right order, and I was like, "Fuck!" I threw my shit up in the air, and we were just laughing, and I put that blooper up because that's what happens.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a good way to show, hey, I'm human, that person's human. This is what happens when you do interviews. So everything other than that has been amazing.
Well, with me, I've never learned to edit video because I've always wanted the rawness when speaking to people, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm lazy, but I I try to, even when I do pre-recorded interviews, I try to, like, I record it as if it's what it is live, so that way people
Hmm.
can see. Because I think that sometimes there's a human element that's missing when you edit out like you said, you make your bloopers or whatever, and people, like, when you see the perfect interview, but realize that there was like 30 minutes and only 5 minutes of that was perfect, and that's the 5 minutes that they use. And when people get used to that, when they see things that are different, they're
Mm,
either like shocked or they're amused. And you know me, I'm gonna try to make light of any situation.
right.
Or there's sometimes the situations where I'm looking at somebody like they're stupid as they're talking, but sometimes that's usually like voice recorded as opposed to video. And
Mm,
the reason why I started um came back to video and doing this specifically was because people keep telling me that they enjoy, like, I'll say the dumbest thing, like, I'm not thinking about it, I'll just say
yeah,
it and
that's
it's like,
normal.
yo. But people said that
Mhm.
they like how I speak to people. And with this particular series, like, the reason why I named it My Friends Are Better Than Yours is because, like, one, I got some dope friends. I got some friends who are really doing some shit. And
Thank you.
secondly, like, I I I I- I'm sick of speaking to people that I really don't know and have to play a certain role. Like, no, no, I don't care about the song that you're about to put out. I think that album you put out 2 weeks ago was whack, and the only reason why I'm doing this is because, like, the audience wants it. No, I don't care anymore. So, but I also wanted to do something where it's different than what other people are doing, because anybody could do an interview, you
Right.
know, and it seems as if everybody's doing interviews nowadays. And I don't knock anybody's hustle, but then I see some of the dumbest people doing the dumbest things, and it's like people like this. And I look at some people's channels, and I'm like, you have 500,000 followers, and you can't even speak English. But it's about the audience, and I want to have fun with this. I want people to tune in to say what type of bullshit is Seth gonna say today. You
Right, right,
know,
right, right,
um,
right.
and I still have like some of my serious interviews, but like I said, it's not going to be for this particular series. Like my friends are better than yours. But the
Mhm.
funny thing is that I did do an interview with an executive, um ah Molandy. I can't remember, but they were doing an R&B showcase in Brooklyn, and I started like, okay, well, I'm gonna do the straight thing, but we felt so comfortable that we spoke to each other as if like we knew each other, and the interview went much better because of that. And I tell
Mhm.
people that when people ask me like, well, what do you do when you're stuck? And it's like, it depends. It's like, sometimes I'm like, all right, well, it could be 5 minutes and gone. I'm like, okay, well, it was good talking to you. And or what I try to do is every interview, I try to get the meat of what people are trying to do out of the way first, just in case it doesn't go well. At least you got to get what you wanted to get out of it. Because I've had
Right.
some bad interviews, like, and I'm not afraid to say because he can't beat my ass, but Ti was the worst interview that I ever did. But this is when he first came out. And
Right.
the responses he gave me, I'm looking at him like, you're a dick. Like I'm looking at him like, money, like this is your career. You're a new artist and you're acting like, such a dick. And I'm looking like, and this was in person. And I'm gonna have my tape recorder. I'm looking at him like the interview was I'm not exaggerating. The interview was probably like 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And the publicist looked at me and I was like, are you okay with this? And then
Right.
Ti was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." I posted the interview, and then she hits me up like afterwards, like, "Could you please take that down because it doesn't make him look." I'm like, "That's on him." And I, and
Right.
and I've always been lucky that every publication I've worked at, from Black Enterprise to Vibe to the Source, like any place that I worked, because I started doing this on my own, like I've always had the ability to do what I wanted to do in theory,
Mhm.
because like I've always been connected. I mean,
Right.
so like I even to this day I only interview who I want to interview. Um, Even when I was working on some of the magazines,
You
they were
sound real stank right now. You sound real stank. I need you to come back a little bit. Go ahead now. Come on now. Say that
I'm,
shit
I'm,
right.
I'm, I'm gonna be stank. Um, it is what it is. But I just think that people need to. I don't know. Like I said, the bad thing about me sometimes is when I'm having my conversations with my friends, I go off on 17 different directions because I know I can. So I
Right.
get, I get lost, and we're talking about Star Wars. Next thing you know, we're talking about making pizzas in Brooklyn. So it's like, I don't know how I get there, but
Listen,
yeah. But like my whole point is, I just want people to just be themselves when they're talking, because everybody has a persona. Everybody has a
well,
persona.
but here's the thing though. You never know. Like, you don't know when an interview is going to be a good or bad interview. You don't know. You schedule an interview, and I have, which I won't divulge. I have my own way of, yeah, because I don't want you stealing my secrets. I have my own way of, of, of engaging with people and getting a feel for them and knowing that, okay, one guest is going to be more work than the other. I'm going to have to pull teeth a little bit to get this interview going. And
Yeah,
usually my interviews are an hour or more. There have been a couple that have been 30 minutes because I couldn't get that person to engage. And that's a reflection on them. You know what I mean? There's nothing that I can do. If I'm talking to you and I say, so yada, 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 and you give me a one word answer, that's on you. It's not going to reflect bad on me. And trust, people are sending me DMs saying, yo, what was the problem? I have no idea. It wasn't me. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I think with you, you do have a plethora of people that you are friends with that happen to be celebrities. entertainers, executives. And I think, that's the advantage that you have. You're Big Said. Everybody knows you. If I say Said, they don't know who I'm talking about. But if I say Big Said, they
Yeah.
know who I'm talking about.
And I have to laugh because like my mother named me Cedric. I love my name, and when I tell people Cedric, or when I say Cedric, and then I have to resort to saying Big Said, oh, Big Said, and I've realized that I created that.
Hmm.
So I guess I was successful with that because even back in the days, like calling my friends up in like in their office, like yo, is Cedric on the phone. They're like, they don't know who Cedric is, but it's like, I'll tell them Big Said, oh, Big Said, and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, I get that, and it wasn't purposely done. I think that I felt like I had to not play a character, but there are different sides to people all the time, and I think people try to. I don't try to be somebody I'm not. I just give
Well,
you
hang
what
on a second. Let me ask you this. Where did the big come from?
I have a big heart.
Big what?
I have a big heart.
Ugh.
Well, what you remember? I used to promote parties. So when I was promoting
Yeah, I
parties,
remember.
listen,
What
when
that got to do with you being big?
because I used to bring in girls. I thought that was funny. Vig bringing girls.
I just gave you the bump, but so
I didn't
yeah.
care, you know.
Anywho, okay. I mean, what came to mind when I hear, especially somebody your age,
Hey,
with
hey,
the
hey.
big. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Back then, everybody was big so and so. You know what I'm saying? If you really think about the street promoters, this is what they
No,
was.
no,
There's big so and so.
I get it. I my first like nickname was Crazy Cool Said. So you know how old I am if it was Crazy Cool Said because I wanted to use all C's.
Right.
You know,
So glad. I'm so glad you didn't stick to that.
nah, that was short lived. But I'm gonna tell you how.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you. Well, um, the reason why I started calling myself Big Said is because I grew up. I was skinny. So in high school, I started working out, and then my boys like, "You said you're getting big." So I transitioned from using just said or crazy cool said, which is like I said, very short lived. And like the fact that people were noticing that I was bulking up, I'm like, well, Big Said. And I'm like, I like that. And it stuck. And it stuck because people used to tease me about being Big Said, but I'm short.
Right.
And it's like, but I used to tell people, big does not equate tall. I'm like, it's like, but like, yeah, but this fat Joe, he's fat, and this that. I'm like, listen, like I said, I had to fight all these years of telling people why I called myself Big Said, and it worked, and now that's it for me forever. My
Yeah.
mother called me,
I mean,
my mother called me Big Said sometimes.
yeah. Listen, sometimes it's meant to be. I feel like that's a name that can go with you until you pass on, and that will be a good thing. There are other names out there that people aren't so lucky with these nicknames. You know what I'm saying? I feel like when I think about, again, it's always going to be Uncle Ralph, Tuffy, and Big Said. Then of course there was Crazy Sam. So, and then there's Beast, and people then call Beast. They call him Beast,
Yeah.
because he was huge. And people don't even understand that part about it. Or I went to high school with somebody named Little, but Little was not little. Little diddly diddly. Sorry, I just had a Tourette's moment. Um, he's huge, and he was a football player, right? You know what I'm saying? So I get it. There's all these oxymorons and things of that nature, but it sticks. I'm never gonna not call you Big Sad, unless I have to call you by your entire government name because you acting a fool or something.
I mean, Tuffy wasn't tough. Let me stop. Let me leave Tuffy alone. Um,
Yes, please.
but the funny thing is that I think everyone, especially anybody that was involved in hip hop or entertainment in general, the music industry, like they wanted to create a persona.
Mhm.
And for me, it wasn't creating a persona. I just, like I said, I don't know. I think because I just enjoyed hip hop so much, and like I said, you know, the guys around the block saying, "Yo, you getting big," and it's like, okay, well, big said, and it's like, it might have a different meaning nowadays because I eat too much, but it is what it is. It's just like Nubi.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
You're,
You better
you're
hurry up and say something.
no, you're a newbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
You're a newbie, so
Listen,
you know.
I have been teased with that name all my life. It was, you a newbie because you knew, don't let somebody say Newberry because I'd be like, where did you get that from? Newbie and Newberry do not translate. You would be surprised at how many people say what they want to say because they don't care, right? So I just let people be, and then I'll never forget this. I had a woman do that Newberry thing to me, and her name was Jessica, and I called her John, specifically called her John, and she said, "This is Jessica," and I said, "Okay," and this is Newbie, not Newberry. And then you learn, you teach people that way, right? So, anywho, but yeah, I think the one thing that again, and I have to reiterate this is that we have been blessed where we have been around some amazing musicians, people in this business. I have seen some interesting things. I know you have. I'm sure we have a bunch of war stories that we could share about nightclubs. I distinctly remember Beast grabbing me up by my jacket because we were at the supper club, and you remember the group, I think they were called the Red Hot Flames. They were singers. It was like three of them.
You mean Red Hot
Anyway,
Chili
one of
Peppers?
them, no. Anyway, one of them, they were a singing group back from like the late 80s, early 90s. I want to say early 90s. And one of them spilled their drink on me. And I got ready to get into Nubi mode, and Beast grabbed me by my jacket and was like, "Not tonight." It's like, okay, all right. I
That's
mean, that was so long ago. I'm not like that anymore. But yeah,
I,
whatever.
that's what I was about to say.
Listen, I think you got to remember, both of us are short, right? So for me, being
I'm
tried, not only as being a woman in this business, but being 5'2", I had to be able to assert some things and make sure people understood I really wasn't that person.
and for the record, I'm 5'7.5" for anybody that's watching that
You
thinks that.
short, dude. You short. You short.
No, no, no,
And
no.
listen, short people need love too. I'm
Listen,
not
listen.
mad.
Listen, I've been short all my life, so I'm not worried about that. But I don't want people thinking that I'm like 5'3" short.
No, 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 no,
So
no,
I,
no,
I just
no,
want to I just want to put that out there because
no. Oh
uh,
my God. Nobody cares, said.
I care. It's my ego. That's one thing. And people think
Listen,
calling me a
I'm gonna
little
give you
slow,
5'8".
huh?
I'm gonna give
Oh,
you
yeah.
five
No,
eight.
no, you know what? I ain't gonna lie. I used to say 5'8", but I say, you know what? I tell people 5'7". I don't care. I'm still me. I still
Yes,
have
and that's all that matters.
I still have a pretty
You are
smile.
you are still the guy from the MC Light video. Like
Don't
people are
do
never
that.
gonna let you live that down, boy.
Never, ever, ever. And you know what? I can accept it because I'm part of hip hop history.
Absolutely. You know what's so crazy that you just said that? So there's this photographer named Lisa Leone who I don't know when, I don't remember seeing her. She was at a video shoot with Trends of Culture,
Trends.
and she was taking photos, and I wound up in her book of photos. So on the left side is Slick Rick, and I'm on the right side. I said, ain't that something? I couldn't believe it. I said, well, I'm part of hip hop history. As a matter of fact, Salam Remy is the one that told my homegirl that, yo, I think I seen your girl in this book. And I was like, what? And she sent it to me, and I was like, wow, I would never have known. That's how much we have been intertwined in this music industry.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that two people. Yeah, people saying that. I guess on Instagram the video is not fitting on the screen because it's like three people. Um, but this is my first time using Instagram, so excuse me, people. I guess it was a trial for me because I never used Instagram through this forum. So I guess the settings are different because it's landscape for every other platform, and for Instagram it's not. So I'm glad you're tuning in. Just listen to my voice, and pay attention to Nubi. But I'll go to
If they could see me, they might be focused on you.
yeah, right. I said I'll go to Facebook or YouTube, or LinkedIn. So I'm trying new things. I'm actually using a new service. So yeah, just to let y'all know. And
What's up, party people?
I was looking at my LinkedIn and Greg Graham said hi newbie,
Hi.
and I see some other things, but that's why I'm like I'm always looking up and looking at other screens to make it look as if I'm doing something.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, main man Dev. Um, I'm just trying, yeah, and that's another reason why I kind of like don't like live because then I'm trying to pay attention to who's saying what, and
Right.
I'm like, but I do appreciate that doing it and people tuning in because I know, like
Yeah,
I
they're
said, more
engaged.
and more people definitely tune in after us. And I don't advertise. I don't say, hey, I'm going on this time. It's like I'm just gonna do it, and if you catch it, you catch it. But luckily,
Mm-hmm.
especially on Facebook, you could pin it. Well, you can put it on Instagram, but evidently, I don't know if I'm going to pin this one on Instagram. Um, but what's in the future for Nubi?
Well, I'm trying to switch up my formula a little bit for We Ear Hustling Baby for next year. Um, I don't know if I'm going to continue doing interviews. I feel like, and this is something I was thinking about when you were talking earlier about interviewing people, is that I don't feel like I should have to convince people that an interview is important. And a lot of times I feel like when I've gone and reached out to artists and said, "Hey, I'd love to interview you," it's as if they're like, okay, like they can take it or leave it. The value is not seen, and that is discouraging. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, you know, what is it about interviewing that people don't understand brings value to their brand? It's just like back in the day, like, I mean, you would tune in to Oprah if you wanted to see what was going on, or Barbara Walters, or any of these greats. Why wouldn't an artist think it's important? Especially, I'm not talking about Taylor Swift and these greats. I'm not. I'm talking about people who are just getting started. It's like pulling teeth. It's
Yeah,
like pulling teeth. And the other thing is, um, I am not monetized, right? And so my whole thing is, number one, if I reach out to you to do an interview, I'm not expecting you to pay me for an interview. However, if you reach out to me for an interview, there's a couple of things that you have to be able to understand, which is one, I have to make sure that your music is a fit for my platform. Because I'm not some of these other podcasts or pages that it's all payola. If I don't like it, I'm not playing it. And I sure as hell don't want to talk to you. So it needs to be a situation where there's a mutual understanding that we both appreciate each other's work. Because what I do is work. And it's lost on people that it takes time. I have to do homework. I'm editing my videos. I'm doing all these things to make sure that you get a product, not only during the interview, but after the interview, that you can share and you can utilize and say, hey, I had this great conversation. You want to know more about me? Check this out. So I'm not sure that I'm going to continue that route. I will continue, though, to share amazing music as I see fit. And I will say this, it's always going to be what I like first.
yeah,
Because
definitely.
here's the thing, people don't know what they like until you give it to them.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I have a different approach only because I'm blessed with knowing so many. people, like I said, that are doing things. And of course, being a journalist for like 74 years, I meet people, and I've talked to people where I want to talk to like years ago, like through my platform. They'll give me the little like, whatever, whatever, and then if they do their homework and then find out like I kind of have a background and a resume, and then it's like, yo, I'm like, too late. That
Right.
shit can pass. And the bad thing with me, which I think is good, is that um there are people that I speak to that want to do this, and then I'll either forget or I'll get caught up, and it's like 7 months later, and they'll look at me like, yo, and I'm like, oh, my bad. Like when I spoke to special ed, that took a year, not because of him, but because of me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I owe MC Light an interview. MC Light, like every platform I've ever been on, she's always giving me an interview. So before our
Mm-hmm.
album came out, when I had, I promote, I I stay in touch with people, and I started texting out the link to the interviews. So Light was like, "Yo, when you gonna have me on?" I was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." 2 months later, she's like, "Yo," I'm like, "Yo, my bad, I forgot." And I tell people that sometimes that I get so caught up, and for me, because when I first started, my friends are better than yours. I did like one 2 years ago, and then another one 7 months later. So this is the first one I've done in 2 weeks, but in the span of like 2 months, I did like 11, 12 of them, which was abundance for me because I'll do one and then, and the thing is not because I can't, and the advantage I do have over a lot of people that are doing this is that I have direct contact with these people.
Mm-hmm.
After I do interviews, people contact me. How can you put me in touch with this person? Can you put me in touch with that person? And I'm like, I'm not a publicist, and I'm not working for them. No, leave me alone.
Right.
But
Right.
but I also like I've talked to Pete Rock, DJ Enough, like, and I'm not one to name drop, but if these people are on the platform, it's not because they're saying no. It's because I'm not following up.
Right.
I'll contact 20 people today, and
Mm-hmm.
then five of them will contact me back. And then a month later, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I saw that you hit me back," and then by that time they're like, "Man, you ain't serious." So I can't
Right.
be
Right.
mad.
Right.
I can't be
Right.
mad at anybody that's like, "Man, I was ready and you didn't
Right.
hit me back." So I
Right.
can't be mad at anybody. But like I said, the only good thing is that I know so many people that it doesn't matter. I can speak to 700 people. If 10% of them respond, that's 70 people I can talk to. So
Right.
I'm good on that aspect. So it's like
But that's the difference between what you and I do. So you are reaching out to people
yeah.
that you already know, and I'm reaching out to people that I'm trying to bring along and say, "Hey, I think you're dope. Let me bring you to the world in the way that I do." So that's the difference. Now, when we start talking about people that we know, like if I reach out to Bumpy, I can get Bumpy. If I just talked to Mark from Minnesota. Like there are definitely artists that we all know that are especially boom bap era and golden era hip hop artists that I can reach out to and say, hey, I want to interview you. But I did a lot of that already on Weekly Rap Gods, so I reach out to them once they're dropping new music. So um I brought Rashid Chappelle and Nick Grant to Weekly Rap Gods. Those were my connections. And so I would just mesh the two when the time was right. But I mean, and I chased Nick Grant for a year. Rashid Chappelle, we just connected and that was organic. And I actually met him in person in North Carolina. So there's all these different ways. I just think the difference between you and I is, like you said, you have more of a, number one, history with these artists. Two, you're an actual certified journalist. I am becoming a journalist in my own way, and it's visual, and it's just different. It's just but I also know that whatever I do for the coming year, it's going to be different from what I've been doing. I don't care if it's this much different or this much different. I just have not decided if I'm going to continue with the interviews yet. This is something I have to really think about.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, I'm getting sick of talking to you. I mean, I know you have things
I
to
mean,
do.
same here. I just got tired of hearing you talk about yourself so much. I was sitting here wiping my brow, like, man, is he gonna keep going? Nah, you know how we do. You already know how we do. I got
Yeah.
nothing but love for you, said. You know how it is.
Let the people know like how to contact you if you want, because you know how you are. You don't want anybody contacting you. You
Nah, it's
don't,
not even like that.
you
Nah,
don't even
just
want me
don't contact.
contacting you.
No, no, don't contact me with the foolishness. So, um, I
I meant
am
I
newbie.
meant social
AK,
media.
yeah,
Social
yeah,
media.
yeah, yeah. That's it. Just social media. I
That's
am
that's what I
newbie.
meant when I
AK,
said that. So
you shut up so I can say my spiel. Listen, I am Nubi, aka Nubi the Ear Hustler. My show is We Ear Hustling, baby. You can find me on Instagram. You can find my interviews on YouTube. I am in and out all day, every day, posting some of the dopest music that you've never heard of. So come check me out.
I appreciate you allowing me to have a conversation with you,
No,
and
thank you, sir.
I'm sure we'll connect. And I know we were supposed to connect like 3 years ago, but you know me, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, my mother calls me every day to be like, remember, I'm your mother, and I'm like, oh yeah, my bad,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Don't get it twisted. I
So
appreciate you, said. We'll talk
nah,
soon.
no problem. Once
All
again,
right.
everyone, my friends are better than yours, and we may have the same friends, so you can't disagree. And if your friends are better than mine, then prove it and show me. Big said, Dennis Rico sign. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and till the next time, peace, peace, and peace. See, it's